welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Jay.
I'm Nessa.
Hi, Nessa.
Hi. what do we want to start with today?
Well, I want to do a personal shout out, I guess. Today marks the day that me and Elena are finished with the Florida Roller Hockey League commission that we've been working on since November.
Ooh, yay!
Yeah.
When is that going to be released?
I don't know. So for our viewers, our listeners, me and Elena, as some of you may know, we were reached out to in November from a person who is part of a group that's starting a professional roller hockey league out in Florida. The league will be called Tropical Hockey League. I guess he had seen some of my work, which, and is me and Elena's work, because I do the video editing aspect of it and Elena does the illustrations. So however he came to find us, he reached out, we chatted, we talked about, one of the things that is important to me is if I'm putting my work out there, I need to understand this organization. I need to understand that it's going to be inclusive, right? You're going to welcome in queer people. You're going to, you're going to address anything that, we talk about weekly on this podcast that gatekeeps the sport. Like, that's something that was very important for me to ask those questions, and he was very thorough in giving us, the answers that we felt we could move forward with the commission. It's something that I have never really done. I don't really do freelance, but a lot of the stuff that me and Elena have done in the past have just been for fun. And when you put it out there, people will see it, and opportunities will come about. So it was a lot of work. It was a grind. It's finally done. I sent him the email this morning. I'm asking him when can we share it on our end, mostly just because I want to give him the exclusive promo for what he paid for and everything like that. So I'm hoping that eventually I can share that with everybody. But in the meantime, if you check out Tropical Hockey League, just Google it. They've got a website already. There's not a whole lot out there, but they've got some information. I think the league is hoping to launch sometime next year, but I don't know anything about business. So, but in any case, just wanted to say that because I'm super proud of it and a lot of sweat and tears and finding time in between everything else that I've got going on in my life. So anyway, so just wanted to open with that, and yeah.
Woo! I can't wait to see it.
I'm excited. One of the things I saw earlier this week is Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade. Some folks might not know they have a trans kid and they've been outspoken allies, and I guess this happened sometime last week where they were awarded the President's Award at the NAACP, and Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade. Speaking from a place where I hope so many other parents who have trans or queer kids will be coming from, where when your kid comes up to you and shares this very, personal thing, a thing that is not going to be easily accepted in society, that you open your heart wholeheartedly to them and let them share this part with you and just be unapologetically their support system. And what we're seeing right now in the world with all these trans bans and people attacking, the drag community. These are just all people, we're just trying to live our lives, and it's just refreshing to see two folks who are very prominent in the public eye. They're very passionate. They're very outspoken, and it's just coming from a place of love. And I hope people will find this speech, will listen, and will take something from it, because it was just really refreshing to me to um, see these two folks speaking out.
Yeah. I wish there would be more people with a platform as big as theirs that would speak up right now, because it's it's been rough being on socials and seeing a bunch of new bans being introduced, in at least in the US, and like in the UK there's trans people are also being attacked over there, and just a lot of violence being incited against trans folk and drag queens. And it's, I don't know, man, it's getting to me a lot recently, because I know it's not gonna stop there if it continues. And I mean, we can segue into the Pride Nights with sports with this conversation, but it almost feels fake at this point, because yes, they have rainbow jerseys. Yes, they put out rainbow shirts for their fans. Yes, they post about it, but what else are you doing to help speak up for us? Like, there needs to be more that, if they're really behind our community, there needs to be more coming from them. Like, they need to publicly speak out. Like, put a general manager's face up on the screen and say, this is not okay. Do not talk down on these people. They're fans too. Like, we're people, right? I'm at this point where I just need to see more, because it's rough.
So, what did you see from the Seattle Crack?
I actually only saw the jersey. Oh, it's not until the 13th. That's why.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so they
Okay.
just posted the design to let them know, hey, it's coming up.
So, I guess we'll see more of it as it gets closer. That
Yeah.
seems to be the case more times than not. But I mean, the Seattle Kraken have been doing a lot of good things to, promote that they're inclusive, and they're trying to diversify, you know, from the top down. It seems. So I have good hopes that they won't disappoint, or will at least, I mean, the bar is so low, so it's kind of like, as long as you are trying every year to do a little something more, a little something different, I think that, like, I think that's good. If you're continuing to just meet the status quo, which again is below the floor, with just putting the hockeys for everyone, and then maybe you have like one or two things, and maybe you have a jersey. Like, even the jersey is something that I feel like is an easy thing. Like, there's so many queer hockey fans out there, you, who would kill for an opportunity to just, be represented on their team, give the opportunity to design a pride jersey. There's so many out there, and it's just, I don't know what needs to be done from an organizational standpoint, but I'd like to think it's not terribly difficult to put out some kind of promo thing, or whatever the word is, to get folks to apply to design the jersey. I don't think it's terribly hard. It's just, again, you can, just what I said, if you're just going to do the standard, maybe just have like a something you've used in the past, and maybe have one or two people show up. If you've done that in the past, like, It's like, okay, it was nice a year ago, but progress is progress. It needs to, you can't just be satisfied with where you're at now, especially with the things that we've talked about earlier. There are, bigots are finding more and more ways to discriminate. So we have to constantly be battling and moving past things because we can't be comfortable because there's so many people out there who are not comfortable with our very existence. So, for folks who don't understand why certain events like a Pride Night is so important to folks in, I mean, it can go even further, not even just Pride Night, it's like Black History Month. Like, these are so important. These acknowledgments are so important to marginalized communities because of everyday happenings. We see that our very existence is not being accepted, and to have an organization who feels like, oh, I've done this one thing, we've worked it out, we've solved racism, we've solved, homophobia by just having this one event, and then if we just keep this going, we've done what we can, we've solved it. And but anyways, so I mean, I guess that kind of brings us into what we were talking about right before we hopped on about the Avs, and they're having theirs, or had theirs, I don't know anymore. I saw that they had a Pride weekend. I saw that
Their Pride Night is tonight.
okay. So, but the Pride weekend started yesterday, and I don't follow a whole lot of Avs fans, so if any of them are listening to us, feel free to reach out to us and tell us, your experience with how the team over the years has done Pride events. But I did see that they had like a watch party, and I think it was at a queer bar, the Triangle
that's
Bar, or
cute.
something like that. So I don't know
Okay.
details in that. Like, I'm wondering if, like, the team reached out to the bar, coordinated something. I think that would be cool to be reaching out to your community like that, and showing that the team is connected with the community. So, but what we were talking about earlier is the debate about, yes, love to see the connections with the community, love to see when they go and elevate the event by bringing people within the community in all sorts of ways. But then I did see there were a couple of Avs fans just in passing that I saw that brought up concerns about another year where they're not using Pride tape and don't have a jersey during warm-ups.
Yeah. Which, like we were saying, we're both kind of on the fence about that because a jersey is just a jersey, but it is nice to see if players supporting whatever cause, when these warm-ups go up for auction, you can bid for them, and then proceeds go to whatever organization they choose. It looks like the Avalanche, they're going to have a Pride t-shirt, and portions of ticket proceeds will be benefiting You Can Play. So I think I'd rather much see teams supporting local LGBTQ peeps as opposed to You Can Play, because we've talked about our discontent with how they've handled certain things this year. Just this year. Like the Sharks, I would much rather see supporting someone like the Q Corner, who you've donated to, because I don't have the means for that just yet. The tape, again, it's nice to see, like, yeah, they wear it, but Dude, it's I don't know. I can't put my thoughts into words today, but do they really support it? Are they like being forced to use the tape? Do they care? Are they just doing it to get so they don't get in trouble with the organization or whatever? It'd be nice to know that they actually do support it. And it's like, oh, colorful tape, how fun. It's the least I can do for what, the community goes through. But it's just so discouraging.
And for folks who might not understand what the big deal is about knowing that information, like I'll even take a step back and like not even have it like in the context of hockey team, hockey players and stuff like that. It's just a defense mechanism for folks in the queer community, and then you can even dive into like ethnicity and stuff like that. Like we've gone through the grinder with facing discrimination, facing homophobia, facing bigotry. It's anxiety inducing when you invest your time into even just interacting with somebody, and then now you take it a step further with like a hockey team where you're invested in supporting this team and to rooting for these players. It's a very awful feeling to find out later that all of that energy was projected onto somebody who doesn't even believe you should like be alive. I certainly don't try to invest that much time and energy into folks I've never met, but it's exhausting. It's hard to enjoy things in life when you've had those experiences and you're being like, well, maybe I shouldn't like put so much happiness into this thing that makes me so happy when when that's in the back of your mind, and sometimes just a little reassurance that this person who you're rooting for is also rooting for you,
Yeah.
and I don't think that's a huge ask. It's certainly not a huge ask to just be like, can I just live? Can you not try to take away my rights? And it's not even like the vocal folks like a Provorov. It's the people who go out and vote every year, and their vote is contributing to what we're seeing out in the world right now. So that's mostly like what I think about when these events come out, where it's like you're trying to take some happiness from it, but at the same time it's like I'd like to see more, just so I can feel a little more rest assured that the team is not just parading around for like 30 minutes and then every
Just just for your money, really.
yeah. Like this makes me think of, I don't know if I've shared this with you. I certainly don't believe I shared it on the podcast about I when I spent some time living out in Texas and I went out to Austin Pride. And before Austin Pride, my experience with Pride was San Francisco Pride. So that's probably like a really high bar. I understand that, but I was still like, well, I'm here. I've still gotta, go out and celebrate Pride, and I went out to Austin, and for anyone who's gone out to San Francisco Pride, it is a giant party. Like it never ends. It was a little surreal to go out to Austin Pride and we went to see the parade. And I kid you not, it felt like a circus. Like the moment the last float went by, it was like cones were getting picked up, things were getting moved back in place, and then, like everyone just started dispersing. It was just like the weirdest moment. And then my girlfriend at the time, I turned to her and I was like, so well, what do we do now? Like, I was very confused. I'm like, I'm looking for where the party's gonna go, but you pretty much put everything back in place. It's like it never happened, and that's kind of how I feel like with these events, where it's like, are you genuinely Is this a continuous thing or is it just for the show for like 30 seconds? And then once it ends, it's like, put everything back to place. Okay, everything's back to normal. Like, nothing to see here. It just, so, I don't know.
That's so funny. Yeah.
It was very, I wish I could like show you like the memory that I have. I wish I could project it out into
No.
the world because it was a moment where I was just like, this is really bizarre. What happens now?
I know. That's so funny because it's like San Francisco is the capital of like the gays, basically. So there's like a really high bar to set.
I know for sure. Yeah, it was just very strange. We have more queer related hockey stuff to talk about.
Always.
So some positive stuff. I saw that the Senators did a whole like at least for I think it was maybe half of the rink. I can't really tell.
It was the full, pretty much the
It
full rig.
was it?
I think there was one side that might have had black T-shirts, but I'm not entirely sure because it looked empty. But it'd be messed up if they didn't put T-shirts on that side for fans, right?
Yeah, that'd be funny.
So I'm assuming it was black T-shirts on there. But oh my
It's
god, the pictures look so
super
good.
pretty.
It's so cute.
So pretty. So kudos out to the Senators organization for doing that. I don't really follow them, so I don't know in terms of where they fall in what we've talked about earlier with is it just
I
a
actually,
one-off thing or are
yeah,
they
I actually saw someone tweet about it. How their previous owner Melnick was very much against celebrating Pride and like I forget the direct quote, but he had said something like, "What are they gonna make us appeal to the gays now so we can make money?" And it's like, okay, so this is a big step away from that.
isn't his
Daughters,
daughters or okay, daughters are they the interim
I think so. Yeah,
owners?
yeah.
Okay.
So
All
good for
right.
them.
Cool. Awesome. Um Now back to some bad news.
No.
um so as folks know, I'm a big fan of Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider, and so I follow a number of socials that are devoted to these two being ridiculous with each other. And from what I've gathered, the social media admin for the New York Rangers during the dumpster fire that was the New York Rangers retracting from doing jerseys, from doing pride tape shortly after the Flyers fiasco. That made a lot of people upset, and rightfully so, because I like if okay, if I had bought a ticket thinking, cool, I'm going to go to this event that, is supposedly saying you are welcome here. Here are, different ways to celebrate your community. We're going to have jerseys for auction. The players are going to have tape, all these different ways to show support, varying degrees of whether it's authentic, but, we have to work with what we've got and figure out ways to improve the progress in this world. But so let's say you bought a ticket because they sent out an email saying that they would be doing the jerseys and the tape and whatever else, but on the day of the event, there's nowhere to be seen. We still have all the other stuff, but like I said on our last episode, I follow that team on the side, and it was weird to me that I was like, wait a minute, you said where is it? And I just thought maybe I missed the post. I'm like going through socials trying to see did I miss it? Like, or is this the jersey? Did you guys like drop the ball this year? And it turns out that they decided they weren't going to do it anymore. And the spokesperson for the team or whoever it is that came out with a statement, a bunch of just BS about why they didn't do it. obviously would upset a lot of fans. It would certainly upset me if the Sharks, they have their Pride Night coming up next weekend, if they suddenly decided to not do any of it. So I will preface this with social media is just a really difficult place. I try not to spend too much time on it. I understand that that's just where people go to vent, and you have every right to. That I have never been a social media manager. I would imagine if that is the career that you want to go into, you understand what you're just
Signing
gonna
up for,
have
yeah.
to deal with this sort of stuff. And I'm not saying that people who are saying hateful things, yeah, and I'm not saying that this is what happened. I'm just like talking in general. General as in what goes on in social media. People say all kinds of things. People who aren't, if that's not your career, we get to go, cool, I'm just gonna head out now. Like we can, if it's not my job to have to look at this stuff, I'm not gonna do it. But if that is a career that you decided to do, you're still a professional. You still have to conduct yourself in a certain way. The things that I saw that were said in the post that this person shared a couple of days ago, it was like a private conversation with the New York Rangers social media manager who had used her personal to interact with this fan. And but pretty much, I don't think you you go and reach out to a fan and talk to them about things that happen on your employer's social.
Well, the thing that bothered me that was said, or this person said allegedly, was that something about the homophobes are actually nicer than queer folks in the comments. And I just want to point out that the post to which this person is referring to was the Pride Night fiasco that New York Rangers dropped the ball on. And so, of course, queer people are going to be upset. I don't see why homophobes would be upset. They'd be happy that something like this happened. So it makes absolutely no sense to me why this person would bring that up.
Okay, so I have the screenshots. So pretty much this person, along with I'm sure many queer fans, were retweeting or whatever, or quote tweeting the Pride Night tweets from the New York Rangers social page, and were expressing their dissatisfaction with the actions that were taken. And so, from what I saw from comments, apparently those folks were being blocked from the Rangers page. And then I don't know the timeline with what the from where this private conversation happened from now from at this moment to when that Pride Night occurred. But the screenshots that were shared was allegedly they said there are many ways to express feelings without telling a social media manager to fuck themselves. Would appreciate you clarifying that matter with some of your contemporaries.
Yeah.
Allegedly or not, contemporaries. We are now, it's a new slur for us. We're
It's a
just
new
like with
meme.
queer, we're gonna take it back. They went on to allegedly say, to be totally honest, we get a lot more disrespect from people who think they're on the quote unquote right or quote unquote fair side of this argument than the homophobes. Just something to think about. No contest either. Feeling virtuous doesn't give anyone a free pass to spew negativity or and hate.
But let's flip it back, because don't certain homophobes spew hateful comments on Pride Night posts?
And that's what I would be wondering, are you blocking these people as well? Because if you're saying, if your whole stance is like, don't don't at me or whatever with like your hate or whatever, your comments on whatever side of the fence you're going to be on. But if you're telling queer people that they're saying more hateful stuff than the people who don't believe we should exist, are you saying that from a place of you're one of those people on the other side, or are you taking this from a place of neutrality where you're just trying to cleanse the feed of hateful speech altogether, regardless of where you're coming from? I guess is, and but so, which brings us to recently, the person who had these alleged conversations with the social media manager has now been permanently suspended from Twitter.
Which is very interesting.
Which the rule apparently was disrupting the social media experience or manipulation and stuff. And Twitter is just stupid in all regards in that situation, because like there's been situations where someone has clearly been hateful to folks that I follow, and when you report it and then they go, oh well, can't do anything about that, and it's like,
it just doesn't make sense.
so I don't know, but
just something to think about.
Yeah, just something to think about. But as far as we can see, nothing is gonna come about from the New York Rangers. I did do a little dive into who the owner is, and when you have a section on Wiki devoted to controversies, like
red flags.
Yeah, from the organizational standpoint, there's not a lot to be excited about, and the only reason right now where I'm continuing to follow that page is just for content.
Yeah. Can't even root for them in the playoffs no more.
I will root for Mika smiles. That's where I'll go.
That's
Mika
where you'll
smiles,
win.
Mika hugs. They do this thing where Mika and Kreider like bump butts or something like that. And I saw one recently this week, and it made me think of those little animal plushies that have magnets in their butt. Like, someone just make me a Mika Kreider with their magnets in their butts. I don't know, they're weird.
Okay.
Now we can go into trade talks.
Last week we recorded, and I was in the spot where I was trying to mentally prepare for a Timo trade, and as soon as we finished recording, it happened. And so I was not mentally prepared, and I was just really upset, like, okay, I was not ready yet. And then it took them all day to put out the details. So it was an emotional roller coaster. Couldn't find anyone to do a support group with today, so it's just me and you.
I will acknowledge your feelings.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So it's been a week now since it's happened, and I'm feeling okay with it. I wasn't really... The return doesn't make sense to me because I don't have a lot of hockey knowledge in that part of following as a fan. But after hearing Greer talk, after, the Sharks journalist reporting on it, whatever, it kind of makes sense, because Greer's trying to he's trying to fill a lot of holes that this team has with prospects in general. And as much as it sucked that we didn't get a grade A prospect in that return, because Timo is a heck of a player, at least we got, three draft picks, one of which is next year, or two of which are next year.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but that sounds about right. Because a lot of the fine print in it was the part that was throwing me for a loop.
Oh
It's
yeah.
dependent on how well the Devils do in like this upcoming playoffs and then the following one, I believe.
So they have to
And
reach the Eastern Conference Finals for the Sharks to get a second first round pick for next year's draft. Either this year or next year. Like,
but then but then if it's within the top three, then it gets converted to there. Whether that one is the one you're talking about or another pick, basically the Devils are trying to protect also their future by not basically giving us like um, a super good prospect. And I understand where folks are coming from with being upset that Timo was traded, being upset with the return, being upset with pretty much everything else that came out throughout the week. I guess just for me, I'm really trying to see this from a longevity perspective. I don't want them to continue trying to just get back into the playoffs. We've been doing that probably since like 2018. You know, it's like I've mentioned before, like 2016, that was like the peak because we got to the cup. And but I feel like we have been free falling, or we've been in a decline for a couple years after that, and now we're free falling. We are just free falling. And we unfortunately are having to shoulder all these long contracts. It was great for a long time with Doug Wilson. Unfortunately, given, the situation that happened last year, he had to step down, and now Greer is, first year GM. It's a big pile of crap. It's a big pile of crap.
he's just
It's no
sifting through it.
just and I feel like we really need to give him a break. If I were the GM, not that I ever would you really want to come in and just like play around with other people's crap? I think you have a vision, right? And I think you should be given that opportunity to create that for, for how you see the team going in, not even just in the next couple of years, but like let's say like in a 10-year trajectory. And it is going to take some time and it is really going to suck, but I would rather we just pull the band-aid off, hair attached to it, like everything right now. Or okay, let's say we keep Timo, right?
Then what? How long are we going to suck
Then what?
for? We got to wait out all the long contracts, which is going to be another, at least 4 years. And then what? So
Like
here's my perspective, because I've only been following this team for 8 years now, 7 years. The Sharks have only made the playoffs about half the time that I've been following them. So I didn't get to see the success. I heard about it, that they went to the playoffs 19 years.
It was quite nice,
whatever.
actually.
It must be nice.
We should have Elena on again and be like, what's it like to never have seen the playoffs?
Poor thing. She said one day, I think I'm beginning to regret hockey. Oh, so sorry for you. But like, okay, so Sharks fans are spoiled, right? They come from this spoiled place that their team made the playoffs almost every year for almost 20 years. And so they're not used to dealing with this sucky team rebuild, retool, as they like to call it, type thing, since if they've been following long enough since the inception of the team, right? But if they haven't, all they've known is success. So this might be new to a bunch of fans. And in a way, it's understanding like their reactions when they see the returns to their favorite players. because you're attached to these players, and this is coming from, this is how I feel. I get attached to these players and you don't want to see them go.
What did Nate say the other day
What?
when you were saying this on Discord?
What?
Nate made a comment about like, are you
Calling
what did he
myself
say?
out?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely calling myself out. Um, like when you're emotionally attached to these players and they're really good, like Timo is, nothing's gonna seem good enough to come back. Even if we got a Dawson Mercer in return, or a who else was rumored?
Holtz.
Oh yeah, Holtz. Like it might have felt a little bit better, but I feel like people would have still found a reason to complain. Let's be real. Like I follow the Sharks Reddit. All they do is complain. Like, why do you even follow this team anymore? Even when they were successful, all they did was complain. I don't get it. Why follow a sport if it just makes you miserable? Anyways, it's too soon to say whether or not this trade was bad, because I've never heard of these prospects before trading for them. I don't know what their stats are. I've never seen them play. So until we actually get to see them and see where they're at, then we can start making judgments like, But even still, like, supuestamente this Shakir Mohamedulin, I can't pronounce his name, might come over to the Sharks when his season's over in the KHL. You might be able to see him, see some flashes of good things, but he's still young. Like, he's not going to be a Kale McCarr right off the bat. Those are rare. So a few years down the line, maybe people will see what Greer saw, what he has envisioned.
And we also need to keep in mind that I truly feel like Timo would not have been traded if we could have moved any of those other contracts. But because we have to deal with it, I don't think we are one or two or even three people away from making this team like capable of getting back into the playoffs and capable of going against a juggernaut from the East.
Yeah.
Like, we're not there
No.
at all. And I'm tired of subtracting a couple of players who are movable and moving another couple of players into the mix. It's the the main engine that's keeping this team running is not working.
Yeah. It's
And
the definition of insanity.
I understand from the emotional perspective of being attached to players, and I certainly have gone through my fair share of it. Like when I was really getting back into watching the Sharks, that was during the Chichu era. And Chichu was my favorite player. And when Chichu got traded, I didn't know how to feel because, but prior to that, I think my the only other experience I had with a favorite player was when I was still actively following the Yankees and Jorge Posada, and he retired. I didn't know what to do with myself, and now that he's not there anymore, I'm like, well,
No, what?
what do I do? And so, there is that time, like, I don't get to watch this person play, and what was really exciting for me. So I remember when Chichu got traded, I think it was like shortly before the season started. I can't remember the year. Um, but a couple of my hockey besties had bought me a jersey, a blank one, for my birthday. Like it was like like a month or two later. But they purposely gave it to me blank because they said once you decide to choose another favorite player, we will get it customized for you. And that was the year, I think it was, I want to say '08 without looking it up. I think he got traded in like '08. What I'm getting at is the player who ended up going on that jersey was Dan Boyle. And I remember we got Dan a year or so before Chichu was traded. And so whatever needed to happen for me to decide, Dan Boyle's my next favorite player, I'd say Dan Boyle getting traded was harder for me than Chi because of things that I've mentioned previously with he he was concussed during one game, and it was a contract year. He tried his best to get back into the game. He just really wasn't where he uh, was before that that incident, and it just made me really upset that it was like even more so out of his control. Um, and I didn't end up getting a new jersey. I didn't end up deciding for myself who my new player was until last year with Ferraro. So it was like 6 years. Because I understand that there's that emotional side of it, but as a team, this entire team just needs to get better. And you can see it on the ice. Everyone's like freaking miserable. And I didn't get to watch yesterday's game, but it looked really awful on the score sheet.
It
And David Quinn getting ejected.
it was,
So
yeah, it got pretty bad in the third. Like you could tell that they had just given up at that point, and it was you just felt so bad for them. And then Hurdle comes out. I didn't watch the interviews, but I saw some tweets about Hurdle speaking on it, and he just someone said it was the saddest they had ever seen him, and Hurdle is always a happy guy, so that's where they're at. Which also brings Carlson into the conversation, where we shouldn't be surprised if he gets traded for during the draft. Greer has intentionally kept the slot open to retain salary in case anything comes up, and right now Carlson is the only player drawing attention. So
and anybody else. Pair some more defensemen up with Carlson.
I know.
All right. So, should we take a quick look at stuff that have gone out along the league? I think probably the biggest one that comes to mind for me is the rug being pulled out from Jonathan Quick.
Oh, that poor guy. Yeah.
I don't know if I'd say poor guy. He's kind of
I mean,
I don't know if this is coming solely from rivalry perspective, but
I tend to see things from the human side first before.
okay, sure.
Sorry. And I wasn't really here for the Kings Sharks rivalry, so I apologize. I feel a Vegas Sharks rivalry more than Kings Sharks rivalry. If that makes sense. Cuz I haven't really seen it in the playoffs.
I'd say the Kings Sharks rivalry is just a fun NorCal SoCal
Yeah, for sure.
bit, but with the Ducks, that was definitely a rivalry for me when they had Corey Perry, mostly Corey Perry.
Oh, yeah. But
Getzlaf, at least he seems like a decent human being. Corey Perry's just a pest.
like Quick was such a big piece in the Kings organization. It would kind of be like if the Sharks traded Marlowe for someone else, and then like without telling him first. Here's a question. Does it make sense for Vegas to pick him up?
He's obviously a rental because right now their number one is Hill. You gonna go into the playoffs with Aiden Hill as your starter? I don't think so. No shade at Hill, but it's just he needed some work when he was with us, and even when Vegas picked him up, he still wasn't the starter. Logan Thompson was, and now Logan Thompson is down. I think they traded Brossois. I think that's how you say his last name. So they're down. They've got nothing.
How do they always have goalie troubles?
Maybe they need to stop being so terrible with their asset management. This is karma at its finest right now.
But even their very first year, do you remember they went down to like their 6th string goalie or something?
Did they really?
Yeah.
No, they didn't.
I'm throwing a number, but it was definitely past like the 3rd string. They kept going down.
Their first year? No.
Yes, because it was Fleury. He got injured. And then I forgot who was backing him up, and then he got injured,
I
and
think it's
then
worse this year.
Subban went down, he got injured, and then they went to like the fourth string at some point, and I can't remember if he went down or not. But they have always had bad luck with
But
goalies.
did that happen so late in the season?
It was happening throughout the year. I know they had Fleury for the playoffs, but throughout the year it was just a new goalie in the crease. It felt like.
Well, um, yeah, I think it makes sense for them to pick him up.
Okay.
I would be interested to know. I mean, that seems like it was in the works as part of their. Like, I guess there's no way that the Blue Jackets would have kept Quick.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense.
Because why would you? Because they're obviously not in a position where they're contending. I don't know how far out they are from doing that. But acquiring Quick just seems like a means to gain assets and for them to flip him back to a Pacific Division rival. um so what are your thoughts if Vegas and Los Angeles meet up against each other in the first round
I
or at any round?
I just despise Vegas too much, so I'm gonna have to take the Kings side. Like I said, I feel the rivalry against Vegas and the Sharks more than the Kings. So sorry.
Yeah, I think I would have to go. No, I mean I would go with the Kings too, just because I don't like Vegas, and I had a goalie friend make me acknowledge that Quick as a goaltender is really good. Because he was like, well, as a goalie, you need to acknowledge that, like, he's very talented. And I'm like, oh, fine, I guess. It just felt really gross after that. I was like, ugh,
Ugh, gross.
whoa, why did you make me say that? But, like, at the time, lately, I feel like he's still a really great goalie. He plays a very unique style. It's like full blown, like, butterfly. But I feel like players are starting to figure it out.
Yeah.
Just wait for Quick to go down and then shoot high.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's going to work with Vegas. I try not to follow them. Um, they're under a new coach this year and things look interesting in their lineup. So who's to say? I so but just from a rivalry perspective, I don't know. I guess I choose the Kings to if they could both lose somehow, that would be the ideal option.
Yes. Purely as petty
Um
Sharks fans. Well, back to the Sharks. People. So the one trade that didn't really make sense to me was the Mikey Asamont one. But Greer was asked about it a couple days ago after the the deadline, and he said that that Asamont was going to be a UFA this year, and they weren't sure if they would have been able to keep him, and so he ended up flipping him over to I forgot, where did he go? Tampa, because
yeah.
something in his contract said that he needs to play a certain amount of games and he will still be technically an RFA. And because the Sharks aren't going to the playoffs, he would have just been a UFA. So the the Lightning actually have a chance of signing him as an RFA in the offseason if they want to keep him. That's who we got Nemestikov off from. And then Greer flipped him for a fourth round pick, which I don't think Asamont would have got if he tried to trade him solely by himself. So I don't know. I thought that was good.
So one of my friends that texted me over the last couple of days to be upset about trades said I guess he was wondering, did they even try to sign Asimont? And I mean, I think we're kind of just like
I don't think we're in a spot.
picking at what. Well, even I mean, I think he's fairly young, is he not?
He is.
Or is he like 26? So, yeah, like I do see, even in the situation where his status changes, I just like not knowing the ins and outs of how signings and contracts and things that go on in the back end work. Let's say they did talk to him. I mean, this is a bunch of like what ifs at this point, right? They're not going to give us that information, but let's say he did talk to him. Unless you're signing the guy in that talk, things could change like 2 months down the line, right? When you're in the off season and now you're focused on signing folks like that. Like did outside of acquiring other players, we haven't had any extension talks, right, with any of them that are currently on the roster. So I don't think he's even having those discussions. He's just looking at what can I get done for the trade deadline.
Hmm.
And I think in this sort of situation, you look at it can even go back to like the Timo trade. I do feel like we did not get someone like a Mercer or a Holtz because of the lack of extension attached to Timo.
Hmm.
The Devils are taking a risk with picking him up.
Hmm.
And that's kind of how I feel with Asimont. And it's like, yeah, he seemed to fit in really well with the team. But I just feel like it's a gamble that you like would but for the future of the franchise, and again it's like we won't see how this all plays out for several more years down the line. Yes, I understand that picking up a bunch of draft picks doesn't, they could all be a bust. It's like, but would you rather we try building for the future or just have it seems like instant gratification at this point that what we're debating about. We've had instant gratification over the last 20 years, give or take the most recent ones. It's been nice, but we haven't gotten a cup from all those instant gratifications. And so I think the organization, by the way that they've been moving around parts, they are telling us we're looking at longevity. And it is going to be really shitty for a couple years, if not more, but I don't think I don't think if it doesn't work out, the other side of the coin would have been the better option.
Yeah, and like who's gonna want to sign with the Sharks right now? Let's be honest. Like they're at the bottom of the Pacific currently, which yay for draft purposes, but for the players they don't think about that. Like they want to win. This whole sport is about winning to them, so I think Greer did good by him. And it sounds like he did good by all of these trades. Like with Bonino, he made sure he went to Pittsburgh because he would have been happy there. Timo, we knew that he would have been happy in Jersey with his Swiss friends. I think he plays tonight. Are you gonna watch the game?
I guess.
I'm gonna root for him.
I'm gonna say, as much as I'm happy that he went to a team that I don't have any ill feelings towards. Jude on socials needs to
Calm down.
needs to give us some
I
time,
know.
okay? They're salivating over Timo. It's like, do you mind?
We just lost him. Please calm down.
I'm happy that they're happy,
That's about
but
it.
there's a little bit of a
It still
it's still
stings.
fresh to see Timo not in teal.
Oh, they haven't watched him play on the team yet, but I already know they're gonna love him. They're gonna love him so much.
If you
Give him
don't, we'll
back.
take him back, okay? You don't like the shiny toy? We'll take him back. So who is your, I guess we already talked about this, but for the masses, who do you want to get to the cup finals and who do you realistically think will get there for your projection of the East and the West?
Okay, let me look at the standings real quick because I haven't really been paying attention too much other than who's at the bottom. Eastern. So the juggernauts. It's between the Bruins, the Devils, the Hurricanes, and it looks like the Leafs are up there too. I It's really hard to say anything about the Leafs. Like they've made some good acquisitions during the deadline, but the first round exit curse, you can't get past it until I see them playing in the playoffs. I can't root for them. I'm sorry. So for me, it's between the Devils and reluctantly the Bruins. I never root for the Bruins, but they have 103 points right now, and there's still like 20 games left in the season.
And they've proven that they can really fight it out in the playoffs.
The only thing that could get in their way is that a lot of the teams that win President's Trophy don't make it far into the playoffs, but they could be an exception, you know?
Yeah, that's why I mentioned the playoffs bit. Because I was thinking about the President's Trophy too, the President's Trophy curse.
Yeah. As for the West, I'm gonna have to go with the Kraken. I don't think they're gonna get wait.
Wait, we're going with realistically and who you actually want to make it to the
Who
cup.
I want to make to the cup is the Kraken. I know they're a newer team and it would suck for them to get the cup before the Sharks, but I really like their organization and their players. Realistically, I could see the Stars getting up back there because they're doing pretty well under Peter DeBoer. Peter DeBoer.
He's not even the reason why I'm frowning.
Oh, is it because of their new player they just got? I can't root for
They're
the Knights or the
struggling.
Kings. Like it has to be in Central.
Okay, well, your realistic
I can't.
versus your so you want the Kraken to get to the cup. Do you realistically think that they can get there?
No,
Okay. Now,
realistically,
realistically in the West,
I
who
haven't been
do you
paying
think?
enough attention to any of these teams. Realistically, so I'm just gonna throw a name out there and say the Stars.
Okay. And then for the East, realistically versus wanting.
I'm gonna say Devils.
For
For what do you mean? For what? For realistically,
for
for
both.
both, really.
Okay. Okay.
Because these hockey curses, you just never know.
So I will say realistically for the East, the Bruins want the Devils. For the West, realistically, God, the West is just so hard because we just suck. It's just it's like terrible. I mean, like even look at the Avalanche.
I
They've just
know.
been I mean, I get that they have all sorts of injuries and all that stuff, but it's just um
If they can get healthy by the playoffs, they're a contender again.
God, it's so hard. I don't want to choose any of them.
Right?
Um I guess I would have to go with the Stars for realistically. I mean, with the trades that happened recently, it's hard to kind of see how these moving parts have benefited teams just yet. And as much as I don't like he who shall not be named that was acquired by the Stars, I mean, just like he who should not be named that was acquired by the Rangers, it's you have to acknowledge that they are really talented players, but that's just as much as I will say about that. Um, who I want to get to the cup for the West, I'm gonna go with the Wild,
That's random.
even though I don't think it's definitely doesn't feel like it's gonna happen. And an unrelated note, can someone please tell me what the Leafs are doing with Gustafson? Because they acquired him from the Capitals, and he's a defenseman who filled in for John Carlson on the top D pair and first power play. And now he's playing fourth line left wing. I don't know what you guys are doing, but I had to drop him from my team because I like one shot on goal and two hits is just not cutting it right now. Like I don't understand what that team is doing by acquiring a seventh defenseman and putting him on. I mean, unless someone's out, and again, I don't know much about the Leafs, but that was a very bizarre. Like he's playing where now? What is he doing? So that's all I've got.
Yep, me too. I guess that's we've gone through our list here.
I'm just thinking of that image of what's his name? I never watched SpongeBob, but that God, I don't even know what his name is, but he's like out in the distance and he's watching other people have fun.
Oh,
You
Squidward.
see that image? Yeah. So he's often like somewhere on a balcony watching other people run around and have fun, and that's us right now.
Yeah, pretty much. Not even like the playoffs last year. I was just like, oh, okay, until I picked up on the Avs. But I was looking forward to the draft, and it's the same this year. That'll be the thing I'm looking forward to.
All right. Well, that's all we had for you today. And thanks as always for tuning in. I am your host, Jay.
I am Nessa. Thanks, guys.
We'll catch you in the next one. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.